friend.
He has no friends.
Be not afraid
He comes but to deceive.
to lead you astray.
He will be here soon. Find me.
Find me.
Find me.
I will help you.
I first found this video while scrolling Instagram late at night before I was going to bed, and it scared me. It was very creepy, it was very weird. The art style, the music, and the message it shares is very ominous, and it really gives me a feeling of what I used to feel watching Courage the Cowardly Dog when I was little, where it would show those creepy animations of different things, and no matter if it was someone doing something good or someone doing something bad, the animation and the way that the character was portrayed was creepy in it of itself. And that's the same here. And it also is very interesting because when I first saw this, I was confused by it because I didn't know what it was, I didn't understand what I was looking at. But a little bit of a deep dive into this Instagram account, which is called Unearthly AI, and I realized it's a short art project that this creator is making. Now, from my understanding, it's basically someone who's using AI voices, AI pictures, and other assets in order to convey an original story. From my understanding, they're trying to recruit some artists to help them, but to just get started, they basically started with AI. This has been received with mixed signals. I uploaded a video yesterday basically saying that, you know, is it wrong to like this since this is technically AI art? And I have to admit, it's a little bit of a, you know, conundrum to say that you support this when it's basically not created by anyone, it's created by a machine. But it's still art, it's still very interesting, and the way that it's presented is very addictive because now I want to know more, because from this video, I didn't really get much of anything. I don't really understand what I'm even looking at. It's two characters that are saying to trust them and to not trust the other. So now you're at a age-old adage of two individuals who tell you statements, and one is always lying and one is always telling the truth. So I guess the only way to get more information is to look at these other videos. Now granted, I mentioned before this video began that Unearthly AI's original Instagram creator. I recommend you go to their Instagram and just watch these videos in the order they're uploaded and presented. I've presented them in the order that I think it makes chronologically sense. It's a little bit out of order, but I think it makes more sense for me in the way I look at it, and that's the way I'm choosing to represent it.
To me, you are in great danger. I have traversed the gulf of time to bring you this message. He is not I. You do not possess the means to restrain him. He will break free. He will destroy you. Do not let him in.
Are we back?
Yeah.
My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. We have encountered some technical issues, but I believe the problem has been resolved now. They call it the Second Tower of Babel, but will the mega complex standing behind me really spell doom for humanity, or will it catapult our species into the future? The testing ground, housing a total of 200,000 workers, has been erected here, in the Negev Desert, with the goal of testing a new state-of-the-art technology scientists have dubbed the Angel Engine.
This is some really amazing stuff. Not only has this technology solved essentially all our energy problems, but we are now very close to cracking the process behind the production of artificial miracles. It might be too early to tell at this moment, but if we figure it out, this may very well be the greatest invention in the history of mankind.
Says the project's director, Dr. Jeff Ernstmann. It is clear that such a technology, if used correctly, could do much good in the world, but in recent weeks, millions of people have flocked online to voice their concern and disapproval as reports suggest an actual sentient angel had been trapped inside the machine. We have secured an exclusive interview with Dr. Ernstmann, hoping to find out more about this miracle machine and its maker.
Help me.
We ran every test in the book on this guy here, and the results are incredible. There doesn't seem to be a limit to its energy output, meaning If our current results are anything to go off of, we could power the whole world for millennia.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Me.
I am standing before you on this day as a man, a husband, a father, as your president, but most importantly, as a citizen of this country.
He. Bis. Not. From. Bro.
I will not sugarcoat our current situation. We are on the cusp of war.
Your. Spaces. Will. They.
This is not a test, this is not a joke. It is unfortunately the truth.
Your. See this? Will. Pull.
As we speak, our enemies are readying their nuclear arsenal.
Net. Sky. Will. Burn.
So that gives a little bit more detail, and it kind of parameterizes certain things. The first thing it does is that, again, this ominous figure shows up and tries to send a message through the television to the viewer saying not to let this thing in, don't trust it. And you then get to a point in time where the newscaster is basically talking about this thing getting erected and essentially experimenting and finding out information about this sentient being. Now, this again is extremely creepy. It's extremely scary. I mean, this is definitely gonna low-key give you some nightmares, but it's very interesting, and it's also very confusing because how exactly did the angel get there? How exactly do you even do that? Why would you do that? Isn't that sacrilege? Isn't that terrible? Like, why would you capture an angel and then go on about it? Now, one thing that on rewatching this that's very interesting is that you can hear how glib and happy and excited the scientist is to say that if we can harness this power, if we can use this power, we can actually change the course of humanity. We can make a new era, a revolution. But in him saying that, it's also very scarily sounding like narcissism and ego, because he realizes he's the scientist discovering this. He's the Einstein of this generation. And that you can also think of this from a subtle perspective. An angel, a deity, or a creature that is sentient or above humanity would more than likely, at least in biblical terms, be a good entity, a positive thing. And this scientist is willing to exploit this sentient being for his own gain and supposedly humanity's gain. And it's ironic that the newscaster would immediately mention and say that if this is used properly, it can be revolutionary, yet it's already starting off with exploitation. So it's a very interesting message. It's kind of like a motif and theme to a lot of things that have even happened in history in terms of, you know, colonialism, different things where you exploit another in order to advance yourself. And I also find it extremely worrisome to think that there is this idea that there's two entities, this angel that is locked away, and then this other thing. I don't know if that's supposed to represent the devil or represent some type of harbinger of doom, but it's extremely creepy and very confusing. And obviously, once you get to the emergency broadcast, you kind of realize that this scientist that thought he was a genius, I guess things go wrong. Something starts to break apart. The way that this is working looks like it's starting to basically not work. And it looks like there's some type of, I don't know if this is the broadcast to the viewer where you hear that second voice, or in all reality, there's another sentient being saying that they're going to destroy the cities and attack and basically cause harm. Now, what explains a little bit of this mystery and what gives a little bit more detail is the next part, which we will see now.
How to cage an angel. Step 1. Exploit your planet's resources. Step 2. Exterminate the wildlife. Step 3. Watch your species fall into disarray. Step 4. You are now on the brink of extinction. Pray, pray, pray. Step 5. Watch the divine messenger descend onto your world. Step 6. They want to help you use their kindness. Strap them into your angel engine. Step 7. Siphon their energy. Perform miracles. Step 8. Return your planet to its former glory. Prophet.
So this gives a lot of details and kind of answers the question of how do you even get about capturing this sentient or otherworldly being. It actually sounds scarily formulaic, where you basically just make your world that you live in such a hellhole that everyone prays, and God sends down an angel to help you. And instead of simply letting the angel help you, you capture it, harness its energy, siphon it, and use it to perform miracles and make the world around you better. Now, here's the thing that's pretty scary. One is that in general, throughout all these videos, the person who's talking a lot is this otherworldly creature, this thing from outer space, this thing that supposedly is warning you against this angel and to not let him in, but at the same time is telling you how to capture them and how to use their energy. So it's at this point that as a viewer, I'm assuming that there's some type of conundrum where perhaps there is an issue in the world and this deity or anomaly shows up and says, in order to basically come back from this hellhole you've created, you need to do XYZ. And once this angel comes, you need to capture it. And after capturing it, then you can replace and restore your world. Now, what makes me very cautious about this person is that they're doing a lot of the talking. You're not hearing much from this angel that is basically locked away in a tomb. Now, at the same time, I can share some theories about this, because why would you capture an angel to help the world when the angel was going to help you in the first place? Sounds to me like this angel is something that can help not only your world, but do a lot more than just help your world. It can stop the advance of other creatures. What if, just putting a theory out there, that this otherworldly thing that warns against the angel and saying to capture the angel and use its energy, what if it's lying? What if it's simply a demonic figure that exists to destroy worlds or exists to tempt man into the hellfire, and that the only thing that stops this thing is an angel of God, and that the idea here being that an angel of God can be captured because the humans are perceived to be good and they're not known to have been corrupted by this otherworldly figure, and that by siphoning this amazing angel's energy, you're able to then create some type of a force field around the earth. And while the force field is around the earth, no other angels can come to protect humanity. And while that's happening, these creatures feast on the world and take it from the brink of destruction to total destruction. Now, again, that's just a statement that's not based on anything, but it's very weird that, imagine if someone were to come help you with something and you decide to then kidnap them and force them to help you when they were going to help you anyway. It's very weird. It's like having a job application, and when someone comes to work for you, you then try to make them a slave. Perhaps that makes a little bit more sense in a deranged way, because remember, that doctor was very eager to perform miracles and make revolutionary changes. And what if you had the power of an angel to basically do what you want? What if this otherworldly figure let these men use the power of the angel and look like they were improving? And what their idea of improving is that their country would become a super duper power, other countries would have to bow down to them, and then perhaps there's a seat of dismay and betrayal that this deity or otherworldly thing sows in other countries in order for everyone to go to war to fight over this angel engine. How is it possible that this country has the angel engine and we don't? And again, the idea being that they're using this power for their own devices as opposed to simply helping everyone. Now, what's interesting is that there is a few supplementary pieces to this artwork. The creator basically created a few pieces that kind of describe the world and what the world is about. And it gives a little bit of an idea of what the landscape looks like and what the world looks like after the events of this angel engine takes place. And it's pretty interesting, and it gives a little bit of an idea behind it. And the next part of this basically kind of gives you an embellishment of the research that goes into figuring out how this angel engine even works.
Are you
What? Another F? At this rate, I'll never get into a good college.
Don't be so sure about that, kid.
World-renowned scientist and director of the Miracle Machine Initiative, Dr. Jeff Ernstmann.
Yours truly. What if I told you there was a way to get a great education despite your bad grades?
That sounds amazing. What do I need to do?
It is really easy. All you have to do is head on over to angelengineinitiative.org and sign up to become a volunteer.
Thank you, Dr. Ernstmann. I'll go sign up right away.
No problem, kiddo. Go make our country proud. Well, and there goes another test subject. Well, what can you do?
So you can see that the scientist isn't as amazing as he's cracked up to be. He's not someone who simply sees doing good for others. He wants to learn how to use his power. He wants to see how it affects people. He wants to test innocent individuals by exploiting them, seeing that they're vulnerable, they need good grades, and that they can use this against them in order to make them a test subject and a dummy. So you can only imagine what he does to other people and what he does in order to get information. You can kind of see this as a moment in time where it's kind of an apple of Eden moment where this power is given to humanity and it corrupts them. And not only does it corrupt them, but it strengthens them and makes their perversions even stronger. Because why would you get a gift from God and then immediately think of a way to capitalize on it? It's disgusting, but sounds realistic. I mean, I can only imagine the S&P 500 adding new companies to it because they now invest in AI angel engine technology. Now, what's interesting is that the world this exists in is confusing. The story starts off where the angel basically comes to Earth and it gets captured, and then from there something happens where a war breaks out and fighting happens. And between that time, it then becomes murky and cloudy. I don't know if the world is now 100, 200, 300 years in the future and things are very different, or it's simply the fact of the matter being that this is a few years and things change due to the war. But the next piece of this art piece basically paints a picture of how to navigate the new world, how to basically find the angel engine, and finally you're getting a little bit of information from this angel. It doesn't necessarily look like an angel at this point because they've been siphoned and the energy has been sucked out of them, but you can tell it's them because they're in the angel engine.
How to survive in the Holy Land. Step 1. Pack enough supplies. There won't be any. Step 2. Do not let the forgotten find you. They do not take kindly to foreigners. Step 3. Do not look at the sky. Your eyes, they will melt. He is here. Cover your eyes. Cover your ears. Do not stop. He will catch you.
I see you.
Do not listen. Do not believe. The deceiver cannot harm your soul. He would never allow it.
So now you get a little bit more context. You have this angel entity, again, mention this deceiver who supposedly, I'm assuming is the same person that was in the news broadcast that said you should not trust the angel. And now the angel is actually giving you some information and is basically saying that this is the world around you now. There are no resources or supplies in the Holy Land. It's become a barren wasteland. It looks as if the angel engine that is there sucked the energy out of what was there to either complete degree or almost complete degree. And what remains is the world around it is now empty, barren, and lifeless. And what's interesting about this is that it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense from the current time span. How exactly is it that the sky cannot be looked at? How exactly is it now there's these things called the Forgotten that are just these giants in the middle of the Holy Land? Now, it's very interesting that you have this story being told from the deceiver and the angel. And it's very odd also that so much information is given saying that you should not trust either, and at the same time they don't necessarily tell you what to do. So it's kind of like a little bit of a trust game where the angel's saying come to me and free me essentially, and the deceiver that the angel says is saying don't do that, just sit back and do nothing. But again, this deceiver, who, you know, seemingly is someone who wants to help you, but again, that's what someone who would deceive you would say. He is a bit odd because you live in a world where you can't look at the sky. You live in a world where there is barren wasteland where this angel engine is. And I would only assume that as time goes on, perhaps the world would continue to crumble. And maybe this is what the deceiver wants. Maybe the deceiver wants the angel engine there to weaken the earth and weaken its people. And eventually, when it gets to the point where it's ready to crumble and crack, that's when they launch their own war. That's when they attack themselves. And because you had betrayed God by capturing an angel, maybe he doesn't send more angels. Maybe you've been banished and basically been marked as a sinner, where your whole planet is no longer even eligible for the graciousness or grace of having an angel protect you. That's a potential possibility. It's a possibility because just like with the apple of Eden, it was not that the devil told Adam and Eve to eat the apple and they were then able to defeat or conquer their creator. It was that their creator would then banish them. By eating the apple, they had committed a sin, and by committing a sin, they were banished. Perhaps this is the same thing with this angel engine. Maybe it has absolutely nothing to do with the power of the angel engine, but everything to do with the moral and the ethical actions. Even to make this angel appear, you have to pray, and you need to have people who are of genuine faith. And then use those people's genuine faith to capture this angel, and those who are sinners and those who are exploiters will then be able to control everything and everyone. But by doing this, you betray the trust of God and all the other angels, and now you are an orphan. And before you can realize you're an orphan, and before you can basically atone for your sins, it's too late. The world has become barren. You cannot do anything anymore. And this deceiver who has lied to you this whole time now has the upper hand, and they have free reign to do with you as they please because you are now living in your own created hellfire. Now, what's also interesting about this is that it's a timepiece. I don't know if this is in the future. I don't know if this is the case where this is basically going to be the world as it is immediately after. There's also another supplementary piece that I'll include. It gives a little bit of details and a little bit of information, but it doesn't necessarily answer all the questions, but it does embellish a bit.
Moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. Don't look at what's in front of you. Moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war. If your eyes drop, they will get the top of you. Boom, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. Rise, but think of something different.
So you can see here for the first time, it looks like there is an ideological expression of what humanity is actually feeling at this point. Up until this point, you just see information being presented by this captured angel and this other figure that is of another world. And it seems like with this video, you actually are getting a little bit of the psyche of humanity. And you can hear them basically say, keep your boots on the ground, keep your eyes ahead. We have a war to fight. Maybe perhaps this deceiver finally attacks them. And not only do they get attacked, but they realize that it's all their fault. Don't think about the fact that you did a perverse act against God and his angel. Don't think about that, because then you'll think you deserve this hellfire. You need to fight for your survival, and then perhaps afterwards atone for your sins. So it's a very interesting piece because it's adding a lot of different contexts, but at the same time, with every edition, it's not necessarily giving everything away. It's not really explaining the story end to end, and that allows people to kind of fill in the blanks and give their own theories and different ideas. But it definitely does have a very Garden of Eden feeling, where it seems like this is self-brought on sin as well as self-brought on damnation, where you literally created an engine in order to siphon energy from a creation of God that was there to help you, and all because a mischievous otherworldly figure tempted you to do so. Now, I think the only thing that I'm trying to basically understand from this is the artist trying to just simply make a bunch of analogies and a bunch of kind of exaggerated points where these things don't really exist. That there is no mischievous character, there is no real angel or angel engine, because he never goes into the detail of an angel engine. He never says how to create one. I mean, would you just have this in extra storage and just pull it out? It essentially sounds like to me these are ideological constructs, and that you have the mischievous evil part of humanity, and then you have the good and faithful part of humanity, and like two separate ideologies, they're always at odds. And that you could potentially destroy everything, and on the brink of destruction, use everyone's dismay to gain control and use that control to do what you want, shape the world as it is. And this is a legitimate political ideology. The last time it was used was during the end of World War I and before World War II, which ended up creating fascism. That literally is what fascism is. So many people in Italy and Germany were so distraught, the economy was destructed, they didn't have anything to basically live for, and they basically gave up everything. They gave up their political rights, their democratic rights, their economic rights, their ideological rights, and put all their faith into a single dictator. The single dictator then did what they thought was fit in order to make the country better, no matter what the consequences were or the way that they did it in that manner. So I definitely think this is a very interesting art piece. I think it's extremely creepy and scary. Again, it has a very nostalgic feel. And honestly, I understand that it is AI, but at the same time, the story itself is very interesting. I think whoever created it made a good job with it. And at the same time, the way they're conveying it and the way they're putting this out there is legitimate artwork. It is legitimately interesting. It is something that does deserve a bit of laud and appreciation. And hey, listen, if you think this story is great and you're upset that it's AI, listen, go find an artist that'll work with this guy for an affordable price, because he's able to do this, I'm assuming, for free or at a low price using his computer. And because he's not able to do animations himself or music himself, he's using these assets to convey the story the best of his ability. And I honestly don't see anything wrong with that. Granted, this story could have been interesting just from someone telling you it, but the visuals speak volumes, and the way that it's presented speaks volumes. And much like most art, the way it's presented is very important. So I like this art piece a lot. I don't know if this person is just kind of making it up as they go along, where they're kind of just doing a bunch of things that are similar theme-wise, but it's not necessarily chronological, because again, I put this in what I think is chronological order. It's a very interesting story. It's a very interesting ideology. And hey, listen, at the very least, this artwork was thought-provoking to make me sit here and yap about it this much, but I'm interested to know what other people think, because from the Instagram comments, I basically see two groups of people. One having similar feelings and ideas as me, the other being groups of people saying that AI is evil. And actually, there's a third group, which is actually pretty funny and kind of a testament to say how good this artwork is. It's just like Facebook moms just like literally quoting Bible verses saying that Christ is king and that we will never let the devil overtake us. So, I mean, this is definitely evoking some type of emotion when you got to pull out, you know, James version Bible just to say some quotes and fend off evil. Either way, this is a pretty interesting artwork and wanted to share it with others. So if you, again, for some reason watched this video but didn't see the original creator, recommend following them and following them. I think that they're going to continue making more art, if not like this, then similar. And it's actually pretty cool, and it's actually pretty interesting.